I see the same posts and threads that make their rounds several times throughout the year about which character endured the most pain, it feels like Guts is overwhelmingly brought up. Watching and reading most of Berserk, I definitely get it. But for the purposes of this video, one thing that I'm not gonna do is power scale trauma and discuss who had a more sad or more difficult upbringing. I will say though, a character who isn't nearly brought up as much in this sort of discussion is Hyakkimaru. In no way am I saying that Hyakkimaru had it the worst. I'm just here to explain how bad he had it, because shit was pretty unbelievable. I want to start by saying that this isn't particularly a review, but more of a me talking shit out loud kind of deal. So in case you don't read captions, spoilers ahead. The 2019 Dororo remake is about a baby who was born with missing limbs.
Hello, motherfucker.
Skin, ears, nervous system, eyes, and a nose, debt, poor credit, all of that shit mixed together. And all because his father unintentionally offered up Hyakkimaru as a sacrifice for demons, all of whom took parts of Hyakkimaru for themselves. Hyakkimaru's father, Daigo, was a lord, and he just wanted his land to prosper and flourish because they had been struck with famine and epidemics left and right. You know, he was on some real noble shit, and so he could reach higher heights. And by higher heights, I mean ruling the country. You know, regular shit. Like any good lord would do, he unknowingly offered up his son, who wasn't even out of his mother's womb at the time. I mean, he did say he'd give anything of his own as long as he could have his request granted, but even when he found out, that man shrugged that shit off with the quickness. Yeah, fuck them innocent kids who haven't even done anything wrong, except be birthed into a world they never even asked to be a part of. You know, I can't imagine the feeling of seeing your child with missing limbs, no eyes, no nose or skin. So shout out to the mom for not losing her shit, because that right there is nightmare fuel that would have made me drop the baby right on its head. Yeah, that should let you know that I could never be a doctor who could deliver a baby. On some real shit, if I would have delivered a baby like Hyakkimaru, I would have been sued and fired. Moving on though, the midwife was in charge of killing little Hyakkimaru, and she had planned to drown him, but she hesitated once it was time to get to drowning. Rather than kill the ungodly abomination of a newborn, the midwife had Hyakkimaru, placed in a boat, and leaving fate to do the rest rather than straight up snuffing out his life. Eventually, Hyakkimaru's boat reaches a man who specializes in prosthetics, and he raises him as his own son. One day, Hyakkimaru kills a demon and regains a part of himself, which makes him realize that he has to travel and regain all the parts of himself that were stolen, and that's where he meets his companion, Dororo, who helps him on his journey to become whole again. So off rip, Hyakkimaru's life of normality was stripped away before he could even take a fresh breath of air outside of his mother's womb. Like yo, Hyakkimaru ain't even get to pop out and cry before he was dealt a shitty hand. In any other situation, I would say that this would have made for the origin of a cold villain story, but when you don't have ears to hear, eyes to see, and you can't normally interact with others around you, you don't know what exactly you're missing out on. Sometimes, ignorance is truly bliss. Hell, Hyakkimaru was more at peace when he didn't know what seeing, hearing, touching, and feeling meant. He is the quintessential example of one losing their humanity the more they become human. Physically speaking, of course, considering that the demons took parts of him. But truly think about it. Imagine having such a heap of a life and not even knowing just how bad you have it, because misfortune is all you've known since the day you were born, and you just simply accept it as if it's your norm. Again, I don't care which 2D cartoon character has the most depressing life, but Hyakkimaru is definitely a candidate. When he got back to where would have been his home, in a perfect world, he was shunned. His father ordered his men to kill his son. Imagine you were missing out on life and what it truly had to offer because you couldn't truly experience it due to your deformities. And there were a bunch of people thriving, all because of your personal misfortune. Seriously, imagine that there's a ton of people living a way better life than you, somewhere in the world, strictly because of your life being ass. And as long as you keep living in that asshood, they get to keep living up their life. No way in hell should they be eating off of your tragedy. And again, for the father to want him dead on sight is just a cherry on top. Sure, you gave me up to die, but that wasn't enough. Now you want me dead, even though I survived and turned out fine? Relatively speaking, of course. I mean, sure, you want nothing to do with me because if I become whole again, that means that the land will go back into dark times. But man, f*** that. How about one of y'all willingly offer up yourselves to the demon, huh? How about that? And of course the demon's immoral, dirty ass selves are gonna pick an unborn child. But that's the thing about enjoying life. You don't casually think about all the trials and tribulation it took to get to the very moment where you're able to relax and be eating, enjoying entertainment, learning, sleeping, talking and spending time with friends and family. There were people who risked their lives and well-being just so that you could be able to do that. And they don't nearly get brought up or be given enough praise for their contributions. My point is, outside of Hyakkimaru's mother, you think anyone who learned about him are gonna lose any damn sleep? She was the only one who lived with all of that guilt for all of those years. Even if they felt bad in the moment, they still have lives to live. They're not gonna give a fuck in the long term and be thankful. They just wanna keep living their lives. And as long as Hyakkimaru is denied a whole body, that will continue to happen. So why would they care? This is where the classic life of the many outweighs the life of the few tends to come into play. But again, fuck all of that. He was a newborn who couldn't even consent to the fuckery his father condemned him to. If I was robbed an ordinary life for the majority of my life, you're damn right I would have been pissed when I learned just exactly what I was missing out on, and how I was severely inconvenienced. I will say though, thank God his nervous system was something that was taken away, because to have no skin and feel that pain every second of every day would have been too much to bear. I feel Hyakkimaru, man. Why the hell do I gotta go demon slaying to regain shit that was already mine? And on a bigger note, what the f do y'all demons get for holding onto my arms and legs, skin, and everything else y'all took? I'm sure there's an answer to that, but I don't care. I'm just talking in the literal sense here because I'm being stupid. But what the hell are y'all using my fingers for? Seriously, what are you using my fingers for? Why do you need them? Why? They need it for power. Sure, just for power, okay, alright, you got it. Hyakkimaru was a walking, living puppet, man. The poor kid was seriously walking around with like, what, 25% flesh? And 75% prosthetics. Usually when I see this sort of shit in previous eras, it always makes me wonder how does this shit mechanically work. And for Hyakkimaru to not talk, being unable to hear or see, yet to still make sense of everything around him to a certain degree, is insane. Kinda like on some Daredevil shit. But even a bit more impressive than that considering that he couldn't hear from birth. Yo, no lie, if I'm Daigo, I'd ask for a refund though. You took Hyakkimaru's eyes, but you left him with some Daredevil seeing bullshit. But I'm gonna ignore all of that. I'm not gonna be an idiot here. And also because this isn't that sort of video. So I'm just gonna assume that it's instinct and move on. I'm also not gonna get into the whole morality of killing and the reasoning for taking a life. But this whole situation kind of gives credence to why you gotta do it in these sorts of situations. Like in movies and TV shows when someone murks a whole family, but they have the conscience to leave the little innocent child alive. But then that child grows up, seeks revenge, and then comes back to bite the murderer in the ass. End the bloodline and save yourself unnecessary stress down the line. In fiction, I'm a firm believer of that, so don't judge me, okay? For Hyakkimaru to learn that his own family wanted nothing to do with him, and his brother and father actually both wanting him to be dead. My boy was out there fighting for his life, limbless, skinless, fighting demons while his brother got a more privileged life, a life that really could have been his to live. That's what rubbed me the wrong way too. In the bigger picture, you could say that you ought to be the bigger person, be thankful for what you do have and let it go. Normally, I'm all for the Thors and Thorfinn way of thinking about having no enemies, but in this situation, no. I don't think anyone would let it go if they were once upon a time in a similar situation as Hyakkimaru, which is why I'm awarding Hyakkimaru with a justified crash out Medal of Honor. Yeah, fuck all of those people in that country who were eating off of my pain. Go back into dark time with famine and epidemics, you bitches.